Hi there, everybody. This is just a quick exam skills session. It's a bit of a marking task. So you will need some pen and paper so that you can make some notes while you're doing the marking against this. And I like to do little tasks like this because if you're understanding the mark scheme and you're looking at an answer and you can accurately mark it, then you can clearly see what what the question is asking you, and two, what the examiner is looking for, and that is a good skill for you to develop. So our instructions, we're going to read the STEM and take time just to understand the question. Let's read the STEM. A psychologist performed some research in which he claimed to have identified a gene common in obese people. He thought that this would lead to greater acceptance and tolerance of obesity, as it would show that obesity was biologically determined. However, the research actually led to the demand from some people for unborn children to be screened for the gene so that they could be aborted if they had it. Refer to the scenario above to explain socially sensitivity as an ethical implication of research studies and theory. 4 marks. So let's just read the question again. Refer to the scenario above to explain social sensitivity as an ethical implication of research studies and theory. Okay, let's take a quick moment to have a look at the question. First question, our command words is explain. So we know we need to explain. Explain is associated with AO1, so that's our assessment objective there. Now, is there any other command words there? Yes, there is. Actually, it says refer to. So that means we've got to link to something. So it's giving us a command, but this command is what we would refer to as an application word, refer to. So this is telling us that we're going to be bringing in AO2 as well. Is there any AO3? I don't see evaluate, discuss. I don't see any of those type of command words. So we know we need to do an explanation of social sensitivity as an ethical implication. But we also know we need to apply it to the scenario. And this is, when we look at the mark allocation, it is telling us it is worth 4 marks. So we're going to be on a grade boundary. It's going to be 1 to 2 marks, level 1, and 3 to 4 marks with level 2. It's not a direct split. It's like 52 marks for the explain, 2 marks for the application. You're going to explain what social sensitivity is as an implication, and then you're going to use additional knowledge to explain how that will apply to the STEM. So we've understood the question. Hope that makes sense. Let us move on. So here is our grade boundaries. Like I said, level 1, 1 to 2, the explanation of social sensitivity as an ethical implication of research, study, and theory lacks clarity and/or detail. So there's not a lot of information there about it. The application to this scenario is limited. The answer is not clearly expressed. Specialist terminology is either absent or not used appropriately. So here, if we give a little bit of each, we can qualify for 2 marks. To get 3 to 4 marks, the explanation of social sensitivity as an ethical implication of research studies and theory is clear and has some detail. So there has to be some detail. The application to this scenario is mostly clear and effective. The answer is generally coherent with effective use of specialist terminology. So that means we've used this specialist terminology appropriate. And that means we have used it. Level 1, if it's absent, you can still get between 1 to 2 marks. But in level 2 to 3 to 4 marks, you need to be bringing in some of that specialist terminology. It's not looking for tons of it, but where appropriate, it needs to be added in. To expand on it a little bit further, there are 4 marks available for explaining social sensitivity as an ethical implication of research studies and theory. The material will be marked by being placed into the mark levels best fit in the table below. So when you're marking this, and I've put this explanation here, it's got to fit into one of the best fit. So you kind of say, oh, it's kind of more of that one than more of level 1 than level 2. Or actually, there's more detail in the explanation, and the application is almost there, so it'll be in the level 2 and probably be around about the 3 marks. So you're looking for the best fit. Now, relevant content could focus on the impact of the research on individuals, the impact of the research on groups, the impact of the research on society, the duty of the researcher to consider the implications of the research. And there could be 1 or 2 other relevant things that you could link in there, but those are your dominant areas that you're going to apply. Nice little hint and tip here. An effective answer needs to have the relevant psychological content, but must also be related to the scenario provided in the question. It's really important. Don't forget, you're asked to do 2 things in this question. You're asked to explain what it is, but then you're asked to apply it with reference to the scenario. So you're asked to do 2 things. Make sure you do both of these in the answers. So marking task. What I'm going to do, we're going to read together answer 1 and answer 2, and then I'll bring up the little grade boundaries up top. I want you to pause the video, have a read. Which one does it best fit into? Is it a level 1 or a level 2? I would like you to write it down and tell me why. Why do you think answer 1 is that level, and why do you think answer 2 is that level, and give them a mark allocation. So answer 1. Social sensitivity research is when the research can cause harm to those beyond the research situation. This could upset lots of people and cause them distress or harm. For example, people aborting their unborn child if they are found to have the obesity gene, as fat is seen in society as undesirable. So we've got answer 1. Answer 2. Psychological research which raises ethical implications for those beyond the research setting, including certain individuals or social groups or events that can affect the wider society, will be considered as socially sensitive. The researcher who identified the gene linked to obesity needs to consider the effects and the implications it will have on the unborn babies and their mothers and families. On publication of the findings, mothers may start to demand that their unborn children be screened for the gene, as it is seen as undesirable within certain social groups, so that they can abort the pregnancy if the child was found to be a carrier. Okay, so there's our 2 answers. There's our grade boundaries. I'd like you to pause the video now, and I'd like you to mark both of them. Remember, which is the best fit? Is it a level 1 or a level 2? State what level you think it is, give it a mark, and tell me why you gave it that mark. Pause the video. Right, great stuff. I'm glad you paused the video and you did a little bit of marking. Little sessions like this are good because it helps you to see what the examiner is looking for and what makes an effective answer. So let's look at the examiner's comments for answer 1. Now, in the answer, there is some application to the scenario, but has very little explanatory detail, which reduces the overall mark that can be awarded. So it's got some application, yep. It is limited in the explanatory, so it hasn't explained in some detail, just a little bit of detail, not enough. So that means it would be in a level 1. But it's got some application and it's got some sort of an explanation. So it would be awarded 2 out of 4. So again, it's the best fit. When we look at answer 2, this response begins by explaining how ethical implications can have repercussions wider than those just relating to the immediate research. So actually, they've given it in a little bit more detail. Not tons of detail, but they've given it a little bit more, that it goes beyond those in the research and it can affect other individuals, social groups. So they're showing that they have the knowledge and the understanding that there are wider implications for those beyond the research, and that's why it's called social sensitive research. So yeah, this then explained in terms of the scenario. So they've taken that and they've applied it to the scenario before the student finishes by explaining how this affects more than just the participant in the study. This is a well-organized and informative answer. So they've highlighted in the application who it's going to affect. It's going to affect the unborn child. It's going to affect the mother. And the mother's going to then, what the mother's actions of aborting the child, because the greater society sees fat as really undesirable. Therefore, it is really showing the implications, what effect. So they've highlighted who it could affect and in essence, kind of why it's affecting. So therefore, this answer gets 4 out of 4 marks. Now, I hope you just didn't look at them and think to yourself, oh, one's short and the other one's longer, so the other one must be better. Please believe me that there are lots of students who write a lot of things. Just because they've wrote a lot of things doesn't mean it's a good answer. Right, so hopefully you got your answer spot on, your marking spot on, because then you can clearly see what the examiner is looking for. And that's what you've got to remember. If you're looking, you've got your generic mark schemes, become familiar what a level 1 is and a level 2 is. Level 1, level 2, really important that you understand what the different levels are, because when you see a 4 mark and you're familiar with, well, to get into level 2, 3 to 4 marks, terminology must be used effectively. The answer must be coherent. There must, be some detail and explanation. There must be clearly applied to show the implications. So it's about thinking it through. By looking at the answer, answer 1 didn't quite meet that criteria, but it met the criteria of a level 2. Specialist terminology may not have been effective or absent. There was an element of explanation with an element of application. So it wasn't quite there. So that's why we got the 2 marks. Right, well done. Just a quick little exam skills session for you to be developing your exam skills. We'll have another one coming up soon. Take care.